This week on the Racing Insiders, the Rolex 24, is the balance of performance right in IMSA? The Continental Tire Series, we talked some balance of performance issues there also. We talked to Jeff Siegel, winner in the GTD category with Level 5 Motorsports, a past Rolex GT champion. We get a surprise announcement from Sebastian Loeb, 9-time World Rally champion. And are you kidding me? What's going on in our heads? Some headlines there too. Coming up next on the Racing Insiders. Welcome back to the Racing Insiders. We've got a busy week, even though it's a light schedule in motorsports. I'm Bill Wood in Los Angeles. We've got Jeff Lepper in Folsom, California, and Peter Keene in Cocoa Beach, Florida. We've got a great show. First of all, an update on Mimo Gidley, Gainesco Racing driver who was involved in a terrible accident in the Rolex 24. We're getting some updates. He's had several surgeries, the last on his left leg, and he's going to be okay. That's changing day to day, but things are looking good for Mimo Gidley. Peter, it was a great race, the beginning of the Tudor United Sports Car Championship. You're there with Spirit of Daytona. What do you know from the sidelines, from trackside?
A lot, Bill. But first, I'd like to say, thank God for Mimo Gidley. What a vicious crash, and we sat there for the first 20 minutes and just held our breath, and then, you could see him moving in the car. So, that's the best outcome that could happen from that bad situation. But essentially, at Spirit of Daytona, we had a great run, finished fourth. We were a lap down. We didn't really have the speed we had earlier in the week, but essentially, I was usually do spotting for them, but I got a call Saturday morning. Troy Fliss says, I can't afford to have you up on the tower spotting. I need you behind the pit box watching the three computer screens and keeping a track of those P2 cars. We were really worried about the P2, the old LMP2 cars being better than us on the in and out laps, especially if they didn't change tires and stuff. So I got called down to do strategy and did fuel strategy and made all the pit calls throughout the night for Spirit of Daytona. But it was a great event. We came up a little bit short, just didn't have the speed that we had earlier in the week.
But Peter, the Daytona prototypes, the Corvettes, they were first four on the finishing order. They swept the podium. The first P2 car was fifth. Is there that much difference between the two cars?
Well, being a Chevrolet Corvette ourselves for Spirit of Daytona, isn't that the way it's supposed to be? I'm just kidding. To be honest with you, I hate to say it, and that Gainesco was taken out early. That was a fast Corvette as well. There's a couple of different chassis that run the Corvette body, but also Ganassi. I'm sorry, that's probably the worst performance I've ever seen Ganassi put out there. They made many pit violations. They ended up breaking the 01 car. I think they broke the splitter off it so bad that they couldn't repair it. And then in the end, the 02 car breaks the floor. And really, the 02 car was right in the hunt all night long. So, that's a Riley. I think there's competitive there. The other car that had us really concerned early on was the Nissan, the 42 Nissan, the old LMP2 car. That ran a 39. That was as fast as anybody, on all-out speed. So we were worried about that. They broke early. And then the 6 car, they come along, the Muscle Milk car, and they come along and finish fifth. But, we tricked them on a little bit of fuel strategies. The only way we beat the 6 car, they were actually probably, quicker than us. So I think there's good balance of performance.
Now, Peter, when we look at the balance of performance between Daytona prototypes and the old P2 cars, what's kind of like your opinion that I'm seeing here is, Daytona is great for DP cars, the big muscle, a lot of, speed there on those cars. But when we get to these downforce tracks, the way the P2 cars have, do you think the P2 cars are going to have an advantage, even though we saw the domination of DPs at Daytona when we go to Sebring?
Well, if you watch, I completely agree with you, Jeff. I think that, for Daytona and Sebring, they got to run their Le Mans Aero package. And then when we get to traditional racetracks, they're going to get the Aero up. They're going to be able to run whatever they want. And their aerodynamics are way more efficient than we are in the DP cars. If you watch for the 24 hours of Daytona, those old LMP2 cars ate us up in the infield. And the only way we really had an advantage is out on the outside and, straight line speed. So, we're very concerned. I think, if anything, the DP cars are going to need to be helped as we, go forward to the year into traditional racetracks. I don't know that we'll be able to run with those cars once they go to their full aero packages.
You've raced at Sebring. You've been sidelines when cars have been there. Will that bumpy track, and especially that long straight into turn 17, what kind of an impact is that going to have on the DP cars? You've seen what P2 cars can do there. They won the 12-hour, 3 years ago. So what can the DP cars expect there?
Well, hopefully, that's true. Sebring's rougher than a night out, I'll tell you. But I love that old girl. But honestly, I think a Daytona prototype is more robust than a P2 car. So I think our cars will be fine. There's gonna be those suspension damage or maybe driveline failures due to the bumps. But I think we got a pretty stout package, and I think even stronger than a P2 car for durability wise. But it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
We talked about Peter being on the box when the Spirit of Daytona was racing in the Rolex 24. He's also an important part of the Conti program. Peter, you were there, sidelines there. Tell us what was going on in the Conti race.
Well, I got my good buddy Irish Mike that tows my car all over this country for SCCA, national competition. And so I had to go and help out the poor potato farmer. He's bumped his head really hard and built 3 Hyundai Genesis to run in the ST. And so I went and did the pit strategy for those 3 cars, and it was kind of a ride. They're beautiful cars. Mike does an excellent job prepping, race cars, and we got to hop in that ST race and ended up with a 10th place finish. And the good part about that is I guess we were the first non-Porsche or BMW, so we were the first non-German Shepherd in the top 10. So it was a good run for us.
But the first thing that comes to mind, excuse me, Jeff, the first thing that comes to mind is speed. Are we going to get some speed out of those Hyundais in the next round?
Well, IMSA's been all over us like a cheap suit about how fast they were on the outside, but I don't know, from where I was sitting, it sure didn't look like we had any top speed on anybody. Those Caymans are awful fast on the outside, and then, the BMW is just a great package. So, I don't know that they can give us any help, but it'll be interesting to see. I kind of feel, this is a bad thing to say, but I kind of feel sorry for the Mazda and Honda guys. They didn't have any shot, but that's the way it goes. We'll see how it goes when we get to a more handling type racetrack, though.
Well, I was actually there for the Continental race, and it was called the BMW Performance 200, and I mentioned it in last week's show. It was BMW, the top 6 positions in GS. That got changed to 5 with the Turner car getting disqualified in the top 2 in ST. That's not what you want to do in your first race. And are you going to see some adjustments here before Sebring on the ST or the GS cars? I know last year with Billy Johnson and Jack Roush Jr., they won in the Mustang and they penalized the Mustang the entire year. Are we going to see that this year?
Well, that'll be interesting to see. That's one thing I'd like to know. How big was that BMW check? Because it sure made them look good in both those classes. The other thing is I got to give a call out to my buddy, Joe Vardy and the Rum Bum team. They were in the mix. That Porsche was fast, and then I guess they had a mishap. Somehow the car got shut off, or it missed the map or something. And by the time poor Plum could get it refired, what did they finish, 10th or 12th? So it's a Porsche BMW show in GS and in ST. So it'll be interesting to see. Joe Vardy's cagey like a fox, so he probably won't get touched. But I wonder to see if they do anything with those V8 BMWs.
One of the biggest frustrations for me at that race was the yellow flags. Is there any talk or any rumblings from the drivers? I know on Twitter the drivers lit it up about how many yellow flags lap we had at Daytona. Is that something that the series can evaluate and maybe adjust for the future? Because it was the BMW Performance 200 Daytona, and it seems like 199 laps were under yellow.
Well, not only in the Conti race, but also in the 24-hour. The yellows are kind of ridiculous. I understand, with the Mimo situation, they couldn't do anything about that. But I agree with you. It was crazy, some of the yellows they called, and then some of the yellows they didn't call. So I think that IMSA's got a lot of work to do
so
there,
with
and that might be my argument.
The different classes, it's not high speed like the Rolex or the Tudor United Sports Car Championship. But in Continental Tire, the racing is like 1 second, covers the whole podium. Is there going to be some effort to balance the performance there, or do we already have a good balance of performance?
Well, I think that our Hondas were, I believe, a second off. Those Porsches really showed speed. and they're so trained and Conti now to not show what you have until the race. It'll be interesting to see. What Grand or IMSA does about that. I think hopefully they penalize those German cars a little bit. I don't think they need a big penalty, but they sure were fast on the outside. And
this segment of the Racing Insiders was brought to you by GoRacingTV.com, for racers by racers. Want to keep up with all the racing action at the track? Well, download the new Go Racing TV iPhone and Android app. And remember to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
Welcome back to the Racing Insiders. A surprise announcement this past week. Sebastian Loeb, 9-time World Rally Champion, all with Citroen. He's going to be driving a Citroen in the World Touring Car Championship starting this year. He announced that his personal team that's in the FIA GT Series is going to be driving Audi R8s, LMS Ultras. 2 of them. He's changing from McLaren. Jeff, that's a big change, don't you think?
Oh, I think that's a huge change. He's been backed by a McLaren, or McLaren's backed him, vice versa, however you want to look at it. That's been a great relationship and really has allowed him as a driver and a team owner to transition into sports car racing on the full global stage. It's got to make me think, what is Audi writing these checks for all these teams and all this support worldwide? They got something that we don't know about, because they're starting to really focus on this privateer team stuff versus the factory efforts.
Yeah, they've got some teams there. It's kind of building a model off the Porsche model, where they have factory drivers or drivers that they support, and they're feeding them into some of their customer programs. Peter, you think this is a good thing to have all these R8s out there beating up everybody?
I think it's a good thing. I got to work with one of the best there, an Audi driver again, Mike Rockenfeller. What a great, I'll put him right there with Antonio Garcia, another surgeon, behind the wheel, and Audi backed.
Right now we're going to Jeff Siegel, who was part of the Level 5 Motorsports team, won the GTD category at the Rolex 24 last week. Jeff is the 2012 Rolex GT champion. He's won championships elsewhere, but significant thing is that he brings Ferrari back into the winner's circle at the Rolex 24. Jeff, congratulations. I know you missed we're going to get into this a little bit, you missed the champagne spray, but do you at least have your watch after that controversial decision at the race?
No, no watch yet, but definitely a huge sense of accomplishment and satisfaction that we got the race won. A couple of technicalities after the race that had us all sort of holding our hearts for a few hours. In the end, I think IMSA made the right call, and they made the call that most of the people, most of the fans and audience agreed with, which is that we won a race, and it was a great race. And no watch yet, no trophy yet, no champagne spray, but a lot of satisfaction.
Let's get the Sebring and the test. We talked earlier in the broadcast here about the changes, the balance of performance changes that are necessary in the GTD category, or are they necessary? I think like 1 second covered everybody in the final podium or something like that. It's very close competition. How close can it be, and do we need more changes in the balance of performance in the GTD category?
It's pretty close, like you said. Qualifying was exceptionally close. I want to say we qualified in 6th place originally, and we were under 2/10 off the pole. It was incredible. I've never seen anything like that. You had Audi, you had Ferrari, you had Aston Martin, you had Porsche. Everybody was there. Everybody was a contender. I think that there's always work to do on the balance of performance, because it's never perfect, and it'll never be perfect. Unless you had a separate balance of performance for each track to try and equalize all the cars, you just can't do it. The nature of the cars being different, different weight, different aerodynamic characteristics, different horsepower, different torque, all these different things. A car that might not be strong at Daytona might be exceptionally strong when you go to a place like Sebring, where you have less straightaways, more high-speed corners. So every year you have to kind of cross your fingers after Daytona and hope that the series doesn't have a knee-jerk reaction to whatever they see there. I think that there's a balance in the series. Daytona is more unlike any of the other tracks we go to than it is like the other tracks. But even...
Are you kidding me?
Kidding me? You've said that this is one of your favorite segments in the show. Certainly ours. Jeff, what's on your mind?
Well, I got to go to the Super GT. The announcement of Olivier Jarvis going to run with the Lexus RCF in the Super GT GT500 category. They're switching over from the 4-liter V8 formula to the 4-cylinder turbocharged formula now in GT500, getting the same 500 horsepower out of those little 4-cylinder turbocharged cars. I don't know where the technology is in Japan. We need to start getting some of those 500 horsepower 4-cylinders in our street cars here. I like to see that technology go to race cars, but good things coming from Super GT. I'm more of a, are you kidding me? Like, I can't believe this is really happening versus, can you believe this?
You ought to see what they're getting out of those 4-cylinder turbos and drifting. Peter, how about you?
Well, Bill, my are you kidding me is IMSA officiating. Good God, they told us in the drivers' meeting that they'd never turn the pace car lights out at the chicane, and I think they did it 5 times during the race in the 24 hours, so what is it? Is it what you say or what you do? The other thing is those stupid restarts. The pace car was leaving, the racetrack back there in the chicane, and the leader could go. So if you were caught behind a GT car or a P2 car, you were stuck. You couldn't pass until Tani wove the green flag, and she would wait until turn 4 to do that. It was just terrible. They got to get their act together. This letting guys have a big advantage. Did Wayne Taylor Racing have something at the end? If he could have got by the P2 car, I don't know. The restarts were terrible at the 24 Hours of Daytona.
And my Are You Kidding Me goes back to a rumor that we reported a couple of weeks ago here on the Racing Insiders. Tanner Faust, 2-time global rallycross champion with Ford Fiesta. He's one of the pioneers in the sport, one of the OGs, shall we say, in the sport here in the United States. It was going to be announced today, Thursday, that at the Chicago Auto Show, that he's going to go with Volkswagen. Probably with the Michael Andretti program. Jost Capito has been in the background. I remember the guy who had him at the first SEMA round of Global Rallycross. That wasn't last year, but the year before. And Capito at the time was really behind this, was very excited about it, was an opportunity. They don't sell the Polo here in the United States, but it's going to be in Global Rallycross with Michael Andretti and Tanner Faust. Huge team, a huge change. Announcement expected at the Chicago Auto Show today. On the calendar this week, World Rally Championship returns in Sweden. First official winter rally. They had snow and crazy weather in Monte Carlo, but this is snow and ice on practically every stage. A fast rally. They do get to use studs, so you can't believe how fast these guys drive on glare ice. And the Bathurst 12-hour. That's the Bathurst. We've mentioned it before. That's an absolutely spectacular course. A GT race. It's going to be wonderful. A lot of customer cars from Audi. It's going to be a good program. The Bathurst 12-hour. We'll have some highlights on both of those next week on the Racing Insiders. Peter, what are you going to be doing this weekend?
Well, I got a couple good things going this weekend. One is I'm going down to Sebring for a SCCA Regional to help coach Connor Flynn, Irish Mike's Flynn. Nobody knows it yet, but he's going to make his debut in the MX-5 Cup at Sebring. So he's got a new MX-5 Cup car, and we're going down there and shake it down this weekend at a regional. The other thing is I want to say hi out to Travis at Shady Characters. He provided me with these beautiful RCI optics, and check out RCI Optics on Facebook. A great new sunglass company, and it's Right Coast Independent from right here in Cocoa Beach, Florida.
I missed you, Peter. Jeff, how about you?
Well, I had a weekend off last week, but this week is going to be full speed. I'm going to be watching and maintaining the Bathurst 12-hour. I want to see if Eric Bana, the original Hulk, will be competing in the Bathurst 12-hour, how he does. We also have Maximum Velocity Racings here in Folsom, California, building our GT2 Mustang for club racing. Of course, the runoffs at Laguna Seca, the runoffs at Mazda Raceway, Laguna Seca this year. We'll have our Bulletproof Energy Mustang out there, so we finally got the Mustang back from Tully Fabrication with the cage done, and it's time to put it together.
And you could guess what I'm going to be doing. My love is rallying. I'm going to be paying attention to the World Rally Championship round in Sweden. Those studded tires throw ice and snow behind the cars as they charge through the stages on glare ice. It's just a phenomenal event. Fast, fast, fast. If you like rallying, pay attention to this event this weekend. That's the Racing Insiders. I'm Bill Wood in Los Angeles for Jeff Lepper in Folsom, California, and Peter Keene in Cocoa Beach, Florida. Want to see you next week. Until then, take care of each other and respect each other. See you next week. Peace.